Mayor, members of council, the Encanto neighborhood area is probably about a mile away at least from this site. There are some other residential areas closer to that, but the ones where the speakers are here tonight predominantly from are east of 19th Avenue.
Okay. Councilman Nowakowski, you have anything else?
Basically, I just wanted my colleagues to see that in that triangle area, it's all industrial. On the other side of the freeway is actually where the center is going to be built, and that we have a freeway, we have Grand Avenue, then we have the neighborhoods that are here represented tonight.
Thanks very much. Any additional comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Yes. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
No.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams. Valenzuela. No. Mayor Stanton.
No, the vote passes by a 6-3 vote. The next item on the agenda is item number 93, a case concerning Central Avenue and Pearson Street in District 4. Unless the council would like to proceed differently, we'll first hear a staff report, then we'll hold a public hearing on this item, and then we'll see if there's a motion that any member of this council would like to make. Mr. Stevenson, do you have a staff report on item number 93?
I do, Mayor, members of council. Item 93 is, the clicker is not advancing here. As you can see with item number 93 here, it is a request to rezone a property that the existing zoning is C2, P1, R5, and R3, TOD1, to a planned unit development to allow for a commercial and multifamily residential use. Next slide, please. So you see a close-in of that particular parcel here. This is the light rail platform just directly to the north. And you have surrounding residential and use to the south, as well as other height within this area. The project, if we get the next slide here, this shows the existing zoning in the area. That's a mix of C2 and some high-rise zoning for a couple of the parcels, as well as multifamily residential to the east and to the south. Next slide, please. This just shows the TOD1 zoning area that has some transit overlay requirements already put on the property that were put in there in the 1990s because of the light rail line and its proximity to it. Next slide, please. This is the applicant's proposed elevations here. They have a ground floor commercial and then a mix of multifamily residential above with a height of 3 stories, 4 stories, and then 5 stories as you get closer to Central Avenue. For this particular application, staff is supportive of it because it does fit within our Reinvent Phoenix TOD policy framework. This shows the policy framework that was adopted in 2013 by City Council, and it outlines this as a historic neighborhood place type. As part of that place type, it has the lowest intensity of all of the different place types along the light rail line. So you see from downtown, and what height and intensity we allowed around here. This is the lowest intensity one here, and that's a basis of working with the Four Corners Neighborhood Association and groups in that area to establish that. There were representatives of that process on our Uptown Transit District Policy Plan that were appointed by the mayor and council. They met, had a series of meetings, and ultimately the council approved the plan that they helped create earlier this year. This request is consistent with that plan. Here's a close-up of the site. You see here's the Central Camelback station right here. It is an underutilized site that will promote a pedestrian-friendly environment and use that's consistent with our light rail principles, and we wanted to develop there. It also will continue on the trend of ongoing investment within this area of Central Camelback and the revitalization that's happening. The request was approved by the Alhambra Village Planning Committee by a 10-3 vote, as well, and the Planning Commission by a 5-1 vote. This last weekend, Councilwoman Pastor put together a meeting that had representatives from the Four Corners Neighborhood Association groups, the applicant, city staff, as well as her and her office were there to try and work out some of the additional issues that had still arisen. As part of that, with her help, The city has been able to come up with a memo that was distributed earlier to the public and that the mayor and council also got a copy of with some revised stipulations that help address some of the issues that were discussed at that meeting on Saturday regarding traffic mitigation and how we got to be supportive of that request there. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Stevenson. Any questions for Mr. Stevenson? All right, we'll move to Councilwoman. I don't know if you want to hear the citizens here to speak on this item or make a motion first.
I would like to hear the citizens speak.
Mr. Ed Bull is the representative of the applicant, and then we have a series of other. Oh, I'm so sorry. That's right. The first two were not. This is a public hearing case, so with that, I'm going to have to open the public hearing, and so that we can hear from members of the public. The public hearing is now open. Mr. Ed Bull, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. Ed Bull, 702 East Osborne. I'm going to ask some technical help with getting our PowerPoint up, but I will run quickly through it. Kevin Tana from Omnet is here with me, as are others on our team. I will begin by saying that we accept the stipulations in the December 16th memorandum that I believe has been provided to the mayor and council. It's stipulations 1 through 5. We accept those. We appreciate a lot of hard work by the District 4 office, others on the mayor and council's offices, the streets and planning staffs, a bunch of neighbors, community leaders, a number of others who have weighed in on various issues concerning this particular site. This particular site, as you know, is a vastly underutilized urban infill retail or urban redevelopment site. We have height that exists and approved all around us, height that's multiples of the 56 feet that we're requesting, and that request, as Mr. Stevenson indicated, is in absolute accordance with your plans. Here's where we're trying to get to. Where we're trying to get to is in accordance with years and years of city plans where we've tried to move away from urban sprawl into urban infill redevelopment, particularly proximate to light rail and light rail stations. As you know, this site is within the council-adopted Uptown TOD policy plan. This is simply a blow-up of one of the slides that Mr. Stevenson had up on the screen. This is us. We're T55 and T43, which means we're to be 5 stories tapering to 3 stories clear over here to the west, which is exactly what we do. As you know, part of what TOD encourages is a walkable urban environment. This particular bird's eye view plan shows Pearson Central light rail and the light rail station along the Central Avenue frontage and the light rail frontage. We have ground floor commercial uses planned here. I want to confirm on the record that my client is comfortable with encouraging and welcoming local businesses to be the tenants in those ground floor commercial spaces. We hope that local businesses will want to go there. I can also tell you that above there, as you know, or alongside, this is an example of the walkable urban environment, which we discussed in all of these different community outreach efforts, plus more, which leads us back to we're here, as you know from your staff report, from our perspective and staff's perspective and the village's perspective and the commission's perspective, consistent with the city's adopted plans, with staff recommendation for approval, the historic district board's letter in support, the village committee's recommendation for approval, and the planning commission's recommendation for approval. We believe very strongly that this is the right development in the right place with a walkable urban environment, with the walkable shaded pedestrian walkways and ground floor commercial adjacent to Central, and the light rail where local businesses will be encouraged to do business, and where above it we have multifamily of various sizes in order to provide diverse housing and attainable housing. As I indicated at the outset, we are comfortable with the supplemental memorandum and the 5 stipulations in the memorandum and request your approval accordingly. If you want a more detailed presentation, I'll give it. Otherwise, I sit down and reserve time for rebuttal.
All right,
if I may.
anybody's welcome to stay after the meeting for a much longer presentation by Mr. Bull. Any questions for Mr. Bull as representative of the applicant? Next speaker will be Chris Hewitt. Are you still here? Would you just provide testimony on this item? You're marked as neutral on the item.
Evening, Mayor Stanton, council members. I also have a PowerPoint presentation.
Please.
We'll see how you enjoy it. Thanks for staying here late. I've got it right on. Okay, so let me just start. I'm not a big fan of meetings in general, so I like to set an agenda, as many of the people that have dealt with me in this project know already. So let's just go over my focus. Really what I want to objectively present is the traffic that is going to stem from OmniNet West. Again, not opposed to it, love development. I just want to be very clear about what may result from it. My intent, just to take ownership. Let's be smart about development, and let's embrace development and also the citizens. So what I'll cover, again, agenda. Let's just take a look at the numbers, and I've had a lot of help getting these numbers. The concerns, safety, walkability, and the ecosystem. And let's talk about reactivity. Reactivity has been held as the solution. I will tell you it's not, and we'll go through exactly why that's not the answer, and getting to a better place. So first of all, I love this conceptual drawing. It's awesome. I mean, look at those people happily contributing to the general fund. It's a great vision, and this is what we should aspire to be as a city. It's just going to take us some very specific work to get there. And before we do, we just got to talk a little bit about traffic. And so on Pearson Street specifically, the volume will go to 1,500 cars a day. Now that's 3 times the current vehicular traffic on the street. The animation is to really get you excited about what I'm talking about. Okay, so that seems like a lot, right? Great. Okay, well, growth comes with sacrifice. Suck it up, Hewitt. Okay, maybe. But let's put that into perspective, a little bit of perspective. If we did that unmitigated, Pearson Street would become 3rd Avenue. All right, so in that, thanks to Kerry Wilcoxon for helping me out with getting these traffic studies. But basically, Pearson would turn into what is 3rd Avenue, Camelback to Coulter, and 1.5 the volume of Coulter to Missouri. So in that, basically what we're doing is we're taking a quiet residential street and turning it into a major thoroughfare. 24 houses front Pearson Street, and what we're talking about being affected, there are 0 homes along 3rd Avenue there, that front. All right, so, what's at risk? Really, when we look about it, safety, walkability, and the ecosystem. Within Pearson Place, let's be honest, Pearson Place, if you're familiar with it, is a neighborhood in transition. Among the 4 corners, Pearson is really the neighborhood that is trying to get its legs underneath it. And part of that, you have a number of families that are moving into the area that value walkability, transit, bicycling. Our family is one of them. We moved from our home in Ahwatukee, sorry, Councilman DeCiccio, to this more walkable environment. So my wife, along with our 7-year-old twins, did people donate time? Sorry, I don't want to go over.
I don't have any cards with time. Okay, just make it. Who are you? Okay. You got it. Go.
Okay, thank you. I'll go fast. So within Pearson, if you're familiar, it is a historic neighborhood. There are no sidewalks. There are no bicycle lanes, and there's on-street parking. So in one of the own studies from our city, we talk about accidents involving pedestrians and bicyclists, and one of the major areas in which that happens is on these arterial neighborhood streets. Pearson in particular is at risk. The ecosystem is at risk. to bring these families, these urban families in, and to develop the neighborhood in the way that which we want to, we have to create a walkable environment. And I believe that in the spirit, OmniNet is trying to do that. We just need to take steps in order to allow that project to realize that vision. So, okay, you know, Chris, great, listen, there's a process for that, right? So, you know, why are you getting upset? You're all good. There's a process. And let me just say, I'll go into the next section as a concerned citizen, not to be critical, but of somebody that is very concerned about how that process could affect change. So the process, I really call it a process with improbable odds. Councilman Waring, I think earlier you said a great point about there's a lot of emotion. This is a topic with a lot of emotion, but it's also a topic that has some hard facts to it.
It took 4 years. I finally had a great point.
And in that, so while a marketer, I'm also a bit of a nerd. And so in talking with Kerry Wilcoxon about the process by which we would mitigate traffic, and through my repeated and iterative questions, I actually went through and invested the time in mapping out the flow process for traffic mitigation, which, if we look at it, it requires a supermajority of 70% of affected residents, not once but twice. And also there are 100% of people within an area that can veto. Throw that into a statistical model, and you get a probability of about 3% of ever that being possible. Okay, so that's concerning to me. So can we truly mitigate later? So let's just look at our own, our processes in the US, our own parliamentary procedure. There's only one thing that jumps to mind that can beat a 70% supermajority, and that is states ratifying the Constitution, right? We can amend a change of the Constitution with a 2/3 majority. So I don't put a lot of faith, whether statistically or emotionally, in that process, especially when it has to be done twice. So what I've heard a few different sayings. You know, we've tried things before. There's not a problem right now. We can't do anything. And for me, that doesn't take responsibility. And really, what I'm basically asking for, and what I'm asking you to consider is what if it was your street? What if your traffic volumes were going to go up 3 times? And that's where I'm requesting ownership within the city. And thankfully, thanks to the work of Councilwoman Pastor and her team, we've gotten to some solutions within the last 10 days that we haven't had throughout this process. And I'm very encouraged by that. But really, and I want this council, as they think about these stipulations and adopting them and your vote, there are 2 things. Engineer the solution and not the process, and proactive decision traffic mitigation. That's what we're here to do. That's what we're here to develop. I speak to you as a concerned resident. I speak to you as a person that loves process and due process, but also as a parent. Somebody that wants to go out in my front yard and play football with my son and my daughter and enjoy the neighborhood and help contribute to that revitalization. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Hewitt, for your testimony. The only thing I'd say is, and I have not done a mathematical model. All I know is we got a lot of speed humps around the city, and that's because people have successfully gone through the process because they do get organized. So I might just suggest that if you can get a neighborhood that generally agrees, and there are many that do around the city, we do have a traffic mitigation system that is fairly effective within the city. We're not perfect, but I don't think it's quite as dire as you might have presented about the chances of you successfully getting traffic mitigation within your neighborhood if it's necessary. All right, next speaker will be Ray Mensch.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor.
Good evening.
And council members. My name is Ray Mensch. I have lived on Pearson Street since 1955. I'm the only non-corporate stakeholder who has actually been a neighbor of the OmniNet. They purchased this property about 8 years ago, and they're bound to my north and to my east, and they've been good neighbors. the density in our neighborhood on Pearson Street began in 1965, though when I was the walking to St. Francis Grade School. So density is nothing new to our neighborhood. The assemblage that we're talking about began in 1980. If there are people in our neighborhood who are, though opposed to density, they needed to do their due diligence before they bought their property. This has always been a part of Pearson Place. Pearson Place was negatively, though, impacted by the Paradise Parkway, and we brought Pearson Place back with the neighbors to a place that it's now a historic neighborhood. So, though, as far as the density, though argument goes, I don't see it. Though I've been participating in Reinvent Phoenix, I've gone through the process, and now I notice that people are getting all upset when the signs went up that there was going to be a problem. I just want to add one more thing.
Very quickly, please, Mr. Mensch.
And that's that we do need the traffic mitigation. We want Pearson Place to maintain its character, and we need a division between the density and the residents of Pearson Place. So traffic mitigation is essential, but I'm though 100% for this project. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mensch. Joanne Mensch, did you want to provide testimony on this item?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council people. I just will echo what my husband said. I've been a resident of 106 West Pearson since 1999, and we are the closest historic home to this assemblage. We have watched our neighborhood thrive and grow with the coming of the light rail, and many of us feared the light rail. We thought it would bring problems, but it has been a very, very good thing for us. And I see the OmniNet project as being a very good thing also, because it will rid us of a somewhat blighted and underused property and make a more diverse, more urbanized, and more divergent Phoenix. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Mensch. How about Dawn Dauphine? Is she here? Dawn Dauphine? She's marked her card as opposed to the item. She may have had to go due to the late hour. How about Travis Benton, maybe? Yep, please come forward if you want to provide testimony. Or did you give your time to Mr. Hewitt? Did you want to provide testimony on item 93? Come on, now's the time to give testimony. If you want to speak on the issue, now's the time to do so.
Thank you, Mayor Stanton and council members. My name is Travis Benton. I live at 130 West Pearson. I imagine many of you have gotten my emails in the past week about what's going on in our neighborhood. And I'm here tonight because I just can't understand why we're having this conversation. I mean, when you look at the property and you look at the proposed development, that's a problem in itself. We are already dealing with traffic problems as it is, and yet we're talking about it like it has potential to better the neighborhood. And my challenge is this. People have been talking about traffic so much, they fail to realize that safety is a concern of our neighborhood as well. I heard earlier that our police force is down 500 positions, okay? That impacts our neighborhood, all of our neighborhoods. And so my thought was, okay, if our law enforcement is down, they're going to be strained, because when you talk about density and intensity, you're talking about people on top of each other. And when you have people on top of each other, like what's being proposed here, you're going to have conflict. And conflict sometimes requires law enforcement. So my thought is this: what's the big hurry? Why are we trying to push this forward when we don't have the infrastructure to support a development like this? And I'm not a politico, I'm just a resident. I'm just slowly immersed into all this stuff. So this is really overwhelming for me, because I don't have time for this, but I've made time for this because this directly impacts my family and my neighbors. And so with that being said, I would really like the opportunity to meet with any of you to talk about the concerns that impact my neighborhood. I have tried to meet with Ms. Pastor, but for whatever reason, your office, there was no one in your office, and I believe you didn't have any aides on that day. And so I've also sent you emails, and you've never replied to my emails. So I don't know why there's a disconnect there, but with that being said, I'm open to meet with you, and I would like my neighbors to attend a meeting with you as well. But without further ado, I don't think we should go forward with this until you hear from the people that are impacted by this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very so much. Thank you much, Mr. Benton. Wishing to speak in favor, although I don't see him out there, is Craig Tripkin. He spoke on another item as well. He used to represent the area on City Council. Brent Kleinman, is Brent still around? Brent put a card in favor of the proposal. Charles Jones, you're the next speaker. Good to see you. Thanks for being patient tonight.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Stanton, members of the council. My name is Charlie Jones. I'm president of Pearson Place Historic District. We issued a letter of support for this project. And just a little bit of background, I want to tell you I'm on 5 or 6 different committees, Mayor Stanton's Neighborhood Advisory Board in particular, other committees and boards around the Central and Camelback area, 7th Avenue Merchants Association, several others, Four Corners groups, the TOD, Uptown Steering Committee, and about 8 years of Light Rail Committee prior to that, when Light Rail was happening. And I tell you that background just to emphasize I've been working on this neighborhood for about 15 years. Heart and soul, 10 hours a week, day in, day out, without stopping. And the one thing I want to tell you the most fervently is that this is the right project in the right place at the right time. Most cities that get light rail have a spurt of development relatively soon after rail goes in. We hit a recession. We had virtually none, at least in the Central and Camelback area. We are now starting to hit our stride. You probably know of some restaurants that have been repurposed, Central and Coulter area. We've had some of that type of action, but not new development. And this project is about the first in the Central and Camelback area. The area right now is close to dilapidated, south of Camelback. I'll remind everybody that Camelback and Central is the gateway to the business district of Phoenix. It has been since I've lived here since 1961. It is the top of the business district. It is the entrance to the business district. It should be grand, especially with light rail. Right now, it's dead. The old Skolnick building across the street, the old Kinko's site, this is horrible. It should have stores, shops, businesses. It should have vibrancy. It should be great. And this project fits the Uptown TOD designation like a glove. I was on that committee. We all supported T5. We all supported 5 stories. We all supported the form-based code. Some people say this project brings too many people to the area, but I think that's just the opposite. I think it brings the right amount of people, the right amount of vibrancy. It's not about the area should stay the same. It's about it should revitalize. This is infill, urban infill. There's a problem with traffic, and to that end, I personally negotiated $50,000 from the applicant to solve the traffic problem. I knew it wouldn't completely solve the problem, but the thought process was traffic in Phoenix, with all due respect to the traffic department, is a chicken and egg type of thing. You have to have the problem, and then you get the fix.
I think, Ms. Jones, you have any final thoughts on it? We went over the 2 minutes, and I just want to move on to other speakers, and we got a long agenda.
The concept with the traffic worked even better than I imagined. Councilwoman Pastor has gotten involved. She's involved the directors of planning, the director of streets. Everybody in a big picture focus is committed to resolving the traffic. I think the traffic will be done and fixed in due time. With that, I ask you to approve this project.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones, for your testimony today.
By the way, Mayor, please, I have about a dozen letters of support.
We'll take it.
I'd
Thank
like
you
to
very much.
provide to the council. And thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jones, for your testimony and your leadership. Natasha Hughes, are you here? Did you want to provide testimony? Oh, I see. Okay, thank you very much. How about Henry Harding? Did you wish to provide testimony? Yes. Now's your time, please.
Everybody's tired. It's been a long pull.
We're good. Come on.
I'm going to try and make this as short as I can.
Do this.
I'm really for the OmniDOT project in that it should be done. But I'm not for the density because there's mathematically, if you bring more people in, it's going to create more traffic. Isn't that right? Yeah? It is. And that's really the point. I ride my bicycle around the city, and I do ride it around the city. In the afternoons, I'll ride all the way over to Scottsdale and back, and I live in the neighborhood. And I'll come down 3rd Avenue. 3rd Avenue is the only major road for bicyclists in this city. And so we have to be particularly careful about how much traffic we're going to allow on to 3rd Avenue. Now, I've heard other folks say that the only way out of this, that complex is going to be on 3rd Avenue. And that really is distressing to me. Putting in a sidewalk isn't going to help the cyclists. And 3rd Avenue is just a 2-lane road. It gets pretty narrow as you get further south. So I would hope you would consider that. Thank you. And go home. Go to bed.
Thank you very much, Mr. Harding, for your testimony. I appreciate you riding your bike to Scottsdale. Just don't spend money in Scottsdale, please. It's our only request. How about Addie Ruscone? You did see the time, thank you. Ken Waters. Is Ken Waters here? You wish to provide testimony? All right, up to 2 minutes of testimony. Thank you for coming and your patience tonight.
Thank you. I'm Ken Waters. I live at 126 West Pearson Street. I just blew it. What happened? Oh, no. Oh, anyways. This is our historic neighborhood center. Alan Stevenson correctly said that this is the lowest intensity place type along the entire light rail system. And you, Mayor Stanton, you proudly signed Reinvent Phoenix TOD Strategic Policy Framework on April 3rd, 2013. And the 4 corners of Medlock, Windsor, St. Francis, and Pearson Place, we're very happy you did that. It designated us the lowest intensity along the light rail system. Alan Stevenson confirmed that. But what's going on now is after this was signed by you on April 3rd, 2013, the Uptown TOD Policy Plan, a subset of the framework plan, went and just totally blew the framework out of the water. I mean, your signature's on this, and we expect you to honor it, and the entire city council to honor it. But when they start designating these T5 colon 5s, those are mid-intensity place types. T5 colon 5, medium intensity place types are right here. So this reliance on the Uptown TOD policy plan, which is a subset of the framework, totally obliterated the framework that was put down that was basically a promise and an official policy to the 4 corners. Now, the Four Corners neighborhoods, all four corners have basically unanimously opposed this project. The Board of Directors of Medlock has opposed it. The Board of Directors of Windsor Square has opposed it. The leadership in St. Francis has said we want 3 stories, not 5 stories. And I've got 115 signatures here to our president's 12 letters of recommendation that refuted that, and that 98% signage rate opposes this project. Here's why we're opposing the project. If I can get back to that. Okay, here. Here we go. This is an assemblage of residential lots. All the egresses are on Pearson Street. There's none on Mariposa, none on the main arterial of Central Avenue. You can't go north up Central Avenue. To go north, east, or west, you're going to have to go out Pearson Street, up 3rd Avenue, and then those people might even go on up through Medlock, so that's why they're opposed as well. To address the stipulations that look like they're the writing on the wall, we'd like to ferret them out. We don't fully have full confidence. I've talked to David Longoria. He increased our confidence a little bit. I want to thank Councilwoman Pastor for working on those. But right now, we don't know if they're going to work or not. We just like time to ferret this out. So OmniNet's going to be before you January 20th on phase 1. This is phase 2. I don't know why there's a rush, but we've got time to continue with this to the 20th of January, when phase 1 over here is going to be decided in the St. Francis neighborhood. This is phase 2. We're 2 to 3 years out. We've got plenty of time to work on those stipulations and just make sure that they are going to give us the mitigation that we're going to need.
Thank you, Mr. Waters.
Again, I want to thank Councilman Pastor for working on those stipulations. But right now, you know, they could be worded wrong. They could be just off, and then it would be too late. So I'm asking for a continuance for this to join up with phase 1 over here on the St. Francis side, because that will be before you in 1 month. I don't know why we have a rush on this. So anyways, I appreciate your time. And wow, we're 7 hours into this meeting. These sunglasses were applicable at 2:30, and you guys, I thank you for your public service.
Thank you very much.
So,
thank you very much,
thank you.
Mr. Waters. Next speaker will be Jeff DiGregorio.
Oh,
Good
thank
to
you.
see you.
Yeah,
Long
good to
time.
see you also.
How are
It's
you
been a
doing?
long
All right,
time.
good.
Great, thank you.
We've known each other since high school, so it's a small world.
Yeah, very small world. Mr. Mayor, member of council, thank you for being here so long tonight. My name is Jeff DiGregorio. I live at 4750 North Central in the beautiful Landmark Tower, which is one of those historic pieces of density that was referred to earlier. I own an apartment that overlooks the the site in question, and I tell you, I think it's just absolutely awesome. I'm so excited for this project. I really want to see it built. I think that the scope and scale of the project is perfect for the neighborhood. The height and the density is well suited to the neighborhood. The way it tapers down as you go into the neighborhood, I think, is fantastic. And it certainly will be a much better contribution to Pearson Place than is what's there currently, which is a fenced-off cluster of abandoned buildings and empty lots. I think this will just be amazing. One of the things that I'm most excited about is to have a couple of 100 new neighbors that will hopefully on foot be enjoying all of the great restaurants and new shops that are open at Central and Camelback, and that will also help support the continued revitalization of Melrose, which is just a short walk from us as well. It's easy to guess, make guesses about what traffic is going to be like with this project. I can tell you what happens in our building. We have 17 stories, 242 apartments. We have far many more people than cars associated with our building. Many people like me choose to live in a building like this on a light rail station because we either don't need a car or we don't need to rely on a car that we do have. We just keep it parked underground. Many of my friends in the building take the train to work, the Uber if they go out at night or whatever. Many people don't actually use a car. So it might be a stretch to think that the people north of us in this new development that every single person will have a car. I don't think that's going to be the case. I think this will be a great addition to the pedestrian environment and beautify the neighborhood in general. So,
Thank you very much, Jeff. Thanks for your testimony. Good to see you. Ernest Jeremio? Is Ernest still around? He had to leave, but he was opposed to the item. Ellen Bilbrey?
Hello, happy holidays to everyone, including the staff. Of course, we have worked real hard with the staff, and we appreciate what they've done to help us understand how this project has come along. I live at 215 West Georgia in Medlock Place. I'm the secretary of Medlock Place Neighborhood Association, which has about 200 people on our email list, and we keep informed on all these issues. We're part of a group of 4 neighborhoods around the light rail place type called the Historic Neighborhood Center, which was the first to be designed as a low intensity and density to help protect the character of the two nationally historic neighborhoods, one that's not, and St. Francis that does not have any designation, but still has historic homes in there, similar to this building here, about the same age. This protection is mandated by the Federal Transit Authority when historic districts may be impacted by public money being used for building new light rail projects. The transit codes of T55, which you are considering, would upzone this property to high density, medium density, we call high density in this case. This concept was talked about with a small group of 12 people last September during the reInvent Phoenix meeting. But the city staff have not held the public meetings promised, which would designate the transect zones within the station types, and that's what we've been waiting for. We are looking at the 11-story BMO Harris building being converted to apartments on the southeast corner, and the 250 high-density project on the west corner, and the other one on the southeast corner of Central and Camelback, which will crush our neighborhoods with traffic. Our board voted unanimously to ask the applicant in the city to comply with the lower height and lower density of the properties within the historic neighborhood center place type. Instead, this project was awarded a bonus level, which increases the density. We would respectfully suggest that the city bring in the neighborhoods into the economic development planning around our neighborhoods so we have a voice in this plan. And I just want to say the downward spiral of these neighborhoods will start when there is a vehicle gridlock in these neighborhoods, no parking for the retail and restaurants, and the small streets are crushed with cut-through traffic. We think our walkability and bikeability is ruined by not planning and using a sustainable model. Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bilbrey. Our next speaker, marked in favor of the item, is Minas Zistas from Brothers Taylor. As long as we've known each other, I did not know that was your last name. You're always Minas to me.
You learn it now. Good evening, Mayor Stanton. Good evening, City Council members. I am located in the front of Central Avenue. I have a clothing store that Greg knows me for years.
I apologize for never shopping off the expensive rack. I'm always on the cheap side of the store.
That's where I shop too. I cannot afford the expensive stuff myself. So I'm here to support this Omni project. I've been asking Greg over and over again if city has any plans for that neighborhood there. As it is now, it looks bad. So as soon as I learned that there is this beautiful project going on, I been here since 2:30 this afternoon to support the project. I was here last week in the planning committee to hear what they say. They support the project, so I hope you all vote yes for the project so the neighborhood can get better. And I spoke with other store owners there in the area. Many of them, they are supporting, they're looking for the area to get better. So that's the hope, and I hope you guys vote yes for the project. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minas, for your patience in spending so much time at today's meeting. Next speaker will be Barry Wong, president of Medlock Place. Good to see you. Good to see you. It's such a late night. Bill Gates compared it to Sine Die night at the legislature.
It is. It's still early, Mayor. I hope you don't sign you die this early. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Barry Wong, residing at 29 West Medlock Drive. I'm speaking here today as president of the Medlock Place Historic Neighborhood Association. As our board secretary, Ms. Bilbrey, stated, we're 200-plus residents in a historic urban neighborhood started around the late 1920s. It's gone through revitalization, renaissance, and it's a vibrant neighborhood, as many of you know, with all the restaurants, the beef eaters, the adaptive reuse, Postinos, Federal Pizza, Taco, etc. So we're seeing a great renaissance of our neighborhood. Everybody wants to come in now. But also we're part of the neighborhood called Four Corners, which includes Windsor Square behind Uptown Plaza, which is going through a restoration and restoration. Of course, you heard from Pearson and, of course, St. Francis. Why is Medlock concerned about a project in another neighborhood? We're concerned because of the traffic flow that we anticipate, a high likelihood of cutting through Pearson, up 3rd Avenue, and traversing through our neighborhood, cutting to Missouri, and dispersing to 7th Avenue and to Central. That's why we're concerned, but also supportive of our Four Corner neighborhoods. Is this project good for the city? It's a great project in terms of the investment to our city, the walkability, but we're concerned about the intensity. We support development, but we also ask that the developers work with the neighborhood so that we have utmost compatibility and harmony with the neighborhood. So I understand, having been through the legislative process, that when a train is moving fast, you try not to get in front of it. But I do applaud Councilwoman Pastor and thank her for at least tapping the brakes several times a couple weeks ago to slow down the train and allow the neighborhoods to meet with the developer and with her and her staff to try to come up with some solution. Unfortunately, we didn't have any type of concessions from the developer, but we did raise the issues, and her staff has addressed point by point a number of the issues, and we respectfully disagree with some of the assertions and interpretations by development staff, and more specifically with the historic place type, which we think is going to be, which is much more intense than we think that is allowable. So in conclusion, Mr. Mayor and members, is that if you see a need to continue to work with neighborhoods in terms of maintaining the character of these beautiful urban neighborhoods, we respectfully request that rejection of this proposal as proposed, and ask the developer to continue to work with the neighborhoods so that we see some wonderful compatibility, so there will be a win-win-win for the developer, the neighborhood, and the city. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and members of the council. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Barry Wong. Next speaker will be Peter Flanagan Hyde. Is he still here? Good to see you again.
Mayor Stanton and the city council members, thanks for the opportunity to speak with you. I would like to voice my approval of this plan. I think, as we've heard from the city staff, it's consistent with the transit-oriented development and the Reinvent Phoenix and the Phoenix General Plan that was recently approved. And I want to go back to the principles that animate those documents, which is that the city of Phoenix needs to be a more sustainable one, in which the impacts of each individual is lessened. And that's done through infill development, higher densities, while maintaining a good quality of life. So I do think that this contributes to that. The buildings that it's replaced were built in the 1960s. They're derelict at the moment. I think this would be a great upgrade to those. I think it does help provide a vibrant community for the Four Corners neighborhood, and with all due respects to some of our neighbors who are opposed to this, I think that the issues of the traffic have solutions. I don't think they are, out of reach solutions. It's not like going to the moon, and I think I've heard from the OmniNet developer some willingness to engage with the neighborhoods in those solutions. So I guess as we think about this building or whatever's built there for the next 50 years, we raise our eyes and think, where's the real long game on this? And I think it's to a more sustainable city, one which has a higher density, one which has emphasis on the shade and the walkability in the vicinity of that. I think there are ways to protect the neighborhood. I live at 167 West Elm Street, right around the corner from this. And I think that my concern would be if there were no mitigations, traffic would increase. And I think there are ways to get around that, which would protect the single-family homes in the historic district, while at the same time moving Phoenix forward towards a more sustainable future. Thanks very much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Flanagan Hyde. I have another speaker, although I don't see him now, indicating he was in favor of the item. That's Sean Sweat. We have a series of people. He had to leave. Wanted to stress importance of connectivity for people, bikes, and cars. Please keep all streets open, no gates. That was what Mr. Sweat. So he supports the project, but that was his advice as it relates to any mitigation. I have Andrea Castanen in favor, Kevin Tanna in favor, David Kreider in favor, Don Kuth in favor, Mark Davis of Davis Enterprises in favor, Robert Donat in favor, and a couple more opposed, Dolores Henderson and James Levitt. Is anyone else here wish to speak on the item number 93 Central Avenue in Pearson in District 4? Okay, so I think then going once, going twice, our public hearing is now closed. I'll hand it over to Councilwoman Pastor.
Alan, before I make a motion, I think we need to hear certain things were said. And so I would like, and we reviewed these items during all our meetings and we had lively discussions. I do want to put on the record that this has been passionate, it's been emotional on all sides, it's even torn some of the neighborhoods in the sense of discussion of neighbors. I'm hoping that after this and with the work of all the work that we are doing and going to do in the future, that this will bring the neighborhood back together. And so I would like to go back to the April 3rd, 2013 letter and start from there. Can you go quickly through that, the history,
So,
for the record?
Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, I think real quick, I want to emphasize the reInvent Uptown TOD plan, which is part of what's in that April discussion as well. One of the residents brought up that it is not consistent with the historic place type that was adopted as a general plan designation, which is the resolution that Mayor Stanton signed. The historic place type is entirely consistent with the Uptown plan, what was done. You see, this is the scale that we talked about. Here's downtown up here at the top, going all the way down, and here's the historic place type down here. The development that is permitted within that historic place type, you'll see right here apartments, you see neighborhood serving commercial. It's 2 to 4 stories in height with an incentive of 5. This proposed project goes 3 stories, 4 stories, and then the 5 stories out on Camelback Road, so they stair-stepped it away from the neighborhood. You see this exhibit over here shows exactly how that particular transit district was applied. So T55 is the more intense zoning within that whole historic place type, but you see how it compares to all the other place types. And that was done as part of the discussion with the entire community here when they work on the Uptown plan. So you see this exhibit right here. This green area shows, as part of that process, where the community marked change was most appropriate and should happen because the parcels were a little bit larger around this intersection here at the corner. And you see the other areas that are yellow is less, and then going down to red is the lower intensity. And so that's why what you see that came out of this is this proposed plan that the mayor and council also adopted. The mayor signed that as well with a resolution that shows the T52 low intensity on the north and along Camelback Road, where you don't have as much of a buffer, That's where the lower intensity zoning is. It's higher right up here at the place type because of the transit district you have it here. This Uptown Plaza that was mentioned, that zoning was established at 56 feet through the Windsor Square Special Planning District that was adopted years ago. So that's already height there that's in place. So it's well within the parameters of what was approved as part of the Uptown plan. And Councilwoman, do you want me to ask or answer any more specific questions? I'm happy to do that.
And can you explain the federal, the TOD and the federal regulations in those items?
Yes, Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor. So when there's a federal undertaking of expending funds, the city or whatever entity is using federal funds has to comply with Section 106. As you're all aware from some of the things you've heard about with the FAA and overflights, when the light rail line was put in, the city did do, Valley Metro more correctly, did a environmental impact statement as part of that. They did comply with Section 106 as part of that, and the city ended up buying some properties here to mitigate the impacts to the historic neighborhood. This current request before you does not include any federal funds whatsoever. So Section 106 does not apply. There's no requirements for that. It's treated just like any other development anywhere else in the city.
Thank you. I did meet with many neighbors. I had many meetings, and I had them in very small environments, or small, formal, close, cozy environments in order to hear everybody's concerns. I had 6 meetings within this whole week, starting from last Tuesday all the way to last night. And throughout the meetings, on Tuesday night of last week, I had a meeting, and I did state that I would not continue this, that we needed to come to a solution and we needed to come up with different options, and I heard everybody's concerns. So I'm making the motion to approve the request per the memo from Alan Stevenson dated December 16, 2015, and adopt the related ordinance with the following directions to Street Transportation Department. Number 1, temporary traffic diverters, shall be installed on Pearson and Elm concurrent with physical construction on the OmniNet West parcel to prohibit westbound traffic from entering the neighborhood. Number 2, exempt the Pearson Place neighborhood from the existing traffic mitigation. Number 3, following completion of construction of the OmniNet West parcel, the department shall work with the Pearson Place neighborhood residents through a special traffic mitigation process for this neighborhood to make it easier to install permanent traffic diverters or alternate traffic mitigation measures as identified in stipulation number 2. The neighborhood shall nominate residents to serve on a 5-member panel to revise the petition boundaries and percentage of signatures necessary for the permanent traffic mitigation solution. The Planning and Development Department will pick 5 residents based upon the residents who are nominated to serve on the panel. Number 4, the traffic study conducted by the department in April of 2015 shall be updated 1 year from the issuance of the final certificate of occupancy to finalize the location and the neighborhood support using the special traffic mitigation process for the permanent traffic diverter or other traffic mitigation measures. Number 5, 1 year after the final certificate of occupancy, traffic studies shall be updated 3 years after the final certificate of occupancy to finalize any other traffic mitigations measured using the special traffic mitigation process. I feel...
Is there a second on the motion? There is a second, Councilwoman?
I feel with all these clarity, this answers many of the questions in the neighborhood and how making sure that we are held accountable and everything is held accountable through this process. If you read, I added more language, but you can see stipulation number 2. It's very clear on the type of mitigation that could happen. So,
All right, so we have the motion to approve per planning committee's recommendation to adopt the related ordinance with the additional requirements that the councilwoman added to that motion. We have a second. Any additional comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Mayor Stanton.
Yes, that motion passes unanimously. Next item on our agenda is item number 94. Item 94 is a proposed abandonment of a street located in District 6. Unless Councilor DeCiccio disagrees, we'll have a staff report, hold the public hearing.
I think, let me see, do we have the one individual still here that's in opposition?
I believe, yes, the opposition and his representative are here.
Yeah, we've narrowed this down to one issue. If I could, you know, unless you need to make the presentation.
I think legally I have to have a public hearing.
Yeah.
And then so I have to do that. Very brief. Okay, so how about just a very brief staff report? I'll hold a public hearing, and then Councilman, any comments or motion you want to make at that time?
Mayor, members of council, this request is an appeal of the abandonment hearing officer's decision to grant abandonment for Pasadena Avenue as shown on the map here and a portion of 8th Street going here to the north for a proposed development. Next slide, please. You see here with the aerial for this, this abandonment was appealed because the property owner who lives or who owns property right here, a business, Representative Mr. Widener, who we'll hear from in a minute, has some concerns about traffic access because he uses Pasadena to come over here because it's easier to make turns out of Camelback Road, onto Camelback Road. Staff has had a number of meetings over the last couple of days with the applicant and the proposed developer on this. Because there is some legal concerns about abandoning abandoning Pasadena Avenue and impacting access to this parcel, staff is looking at, has worked on some traffic light that would go in at Camelback down here as a potential, and some other traffic mitigation measures, as well as the applicant for the proposed project and Mr. Widener have some other things they've worked out that we think ultimately everyone will be happy, but we have a little bit of work to continue to do after this hearing, but we ask that you approve it tonight. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Staff's making a recommendation in support of the abandonment. Any questions for Mr. Stevenson? First speaker, I'm going to now open the public hearing on item number 94. The public hearing is now open. Mr. Widener, is Mr. Earl still here? Did you work out an order of speakers or doesn't, you don't? All right. He jumped in first. Mr. Widener?
Thank you, Mayor Stanton. Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. My name is Michael Widener. I'm in the law firm of Bonnet, Fairborn, Friedman, and Balint. Our address is 2325 East Camelback Road, Phoenix. I'm here on behalf of the applicant, the appellant, actually, which is why I thought it would be appropriate for me to go first, Mayor. And so I have a little bit of a sandwich to present in this lusty abandonment appeal. First, I'm going to say some things by way of background, then I'm going to say a couple of things that sound negative, and then I'm going to end on an optimistic note because I'm an optimistic guy and I think we've got a solution. 36 hours ago, if you had asked me, I would have told you this application was a train wreck. It seemed to be going nowhere. We don't need to share perspectives on the thing. It's simply enough to say that we weren't making any forward progress. Thanks to Councilman DeCiccio's staff, thanks to Economic Development, and thanks to Mr. Stevenson, who particularly played an important role in being a mediator, I think we have a glimmer of hope at the end of the tunnel. Just a couple of words of background. You may not be familiar with 8th Street. 8th Street serves several small businesses. It is basically overwhelmed, masked, hidden, however you'd like to put it, by the building mass that is on the corner, which is the Walgreens. It is very difficult to get out of there and go anywhere. In fact, so that I wouldn't be concerned that I was overclaiming, this morning at 8:35, I pointed my Prius from the corner of 8th Street on the Camelback and headed east, making a left turn movement.
You're a brave man.
I have been delighted to be here for the last 8 hours because, honestly, I thought those were my last minutes on Earth. It required and thankfully only needed 1 second to get into the yellow striped turn lane because, mind you, I looked to my right and I observed that the traffic was stopped on the other side of 7th. So I knew I was safe. I started to execute the turn, and here came the car. One car, 50 miles an hour on Camelback. We have to concede today that Camelback in this vicinity is a mess. I won't bore you with traffic counts. You all know all about that. Fortunately, as a result of the meeting, I believe that the 2 additional stipulations that are proposed and a couple of representations that I believe that Mr. Stevenson and Mr. Earl are going to make, that we don't have to duke this out anymore. It looked like it was going to be a zero-sum game. I don't believe it has to be at this point. Now, unfortunately, though, some of the parts of the ongoing process, because remember, this just happened in the last 36 hours, are not under my control, and I have to represent my client, the appellant. And so I'm going to say some things for the public record, but I say them in good spirit and in earnest. First of all, without the alternative traffic mitigation, I honestly don't believe this council could make the finding that Section 3164 of the code requires that this small piece of roadway is no longer necessary for public use as a roadway. The emphasis in that phrase is not on, is the segment of roadway useful to the people that own the abutting property? The emphasis in that phrase is the roadway necessary for public transit? It absolutely is in this case. And evidence of that is not just in what I'm telling you. It also appears in the form of the representative of the Wells Fargo Bank branch who came to the meeting last night that said, he said, that between 20 and 30% of all the customers of that bank branch were using Pasadena. Why? Because it is terrifying to try to make a movement. You can't make an eastbound movement. If you try to make a southbound movement by getting into the turn pocket, you have to go across 2 lanes of traffic to get to the turn pocket at 7th Street. Game over. This is a bad, bad way to move traffic. So, I do not believe that the council can make a finding that Pasadena in that segment is no longer necessary. In addition, I'm concerned that the abandonment of this thing without the alternative mitigation violates the public trust doctrine and arguably even the gift clause of the state constitution, because I don't believe that handing this over to the car dealership, even though I understand for design purposes they need it, I do not believe that's in for the public benefit. Now, the affirmative part. First, we agree with the 2 proposed stipulations, subject to a little change regarding the no stopping box. Now, that's the diagonally striped device that is put in front of places where it's imperative that people do not stop their cars. So, for example, you may have seen the one on Missouri Avenue, where the fire station is at 12th Street. That's an illustration. Those things could be very helpful. What we'd like to do is have the agreement of the council to a stipulation that they will put it in as soon as is possible. Now, Mr. Stevenson told me earlier this evening that he thinks it may take as many as 4 months. That's not ideal, frankly, but we will try to live with that because it's so important to get it in now to form the habit of people not stopping at 8th Street, because you see the queuing of the westbound traffic on Camelback Road is so horrific, starting at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon and running until 7 in the afternoon. And the headways that are coming in the opposite direction just make turn movements impossible. Now, in addition to that, I think Mr. Earl, I don't want to put words in Steve's mouth, but I think he's going to put on the record that his client the Lexus dealership will not deny public access to this Pasadena segment until construction truly requires physical closure. That is to say, they won't just put up a fence around Pasadena, even though they haven't torn up the asphalt because construction is necessary. We need to leave it intact as long as we possibly can. I think that Mr. Stevenson is going to put on the record the fact that the city will conclude all traffic light plans and studies in a timely fashion so that my client, Build Inc., has to file a claim because it has no alternative, then it will be able to do so in a timely manner. In saying that, I want to remind you that I'm optimistic about this. I think this can happen. I think it makes good traffic management sense, not only because of our specific issue, but because I'll remind you that there is forthcoming, and I think Mr. Earl's involved in it, an apartment project on the other side of Camelback Road that will probably end up using 8th Place. I'll let Steve make the representations about that, but the problem potentially could get worse there, not better. So, if Mr. Stevenson is able to make that representation, if Mr. Earl is able to make his representation, I think what we have here is how planning is supposed to work. Fair play. Everybody pitching something in to try to solve a problem rather than have a binary thing where somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose. I want to end by emphasizing how impressed I was by the staff's continued efforts to work this out. Mr. Stevenson, particularly well done. Economic Development, good show. Councilman DeCiccio, thank you so much for sending a staff member and for helping with the momentum.
I thank you for your testimony, Mr. Widener. And I don't know if during the public hearing would be time for Mr. Stevenson to put what's necessary on the record. Probably after the public hearing is done, then we'll ask for him to do that at Councilman DeCiccio's recommendation. Mr. Fairborn, you are the client. I have a card here for you. Did you provide testimony today, or did your counsel say it all? Couldn't say it better. All right, excellent. All right, Mr. Earl, now it's time for you to testify. You're representing Earnhardt, the proposed car dealer that is asking for this road to be abandoned.
Correct.
Okay.
Mayor, members of the council, for your record, my name is Stephen Earl. I actually had a decent voice a little bit earlier. As we've proceeded through the evening, it's gotten lower and lower until I hope you can understand me. I also had Tex Earnhardt here, the namesake of this dealership and the other 20 dealerships they have in the valley. Unfortunately, we passed his bedtime, and they had to leave. We appreciate the comments that were made by Mr. Widener and the feelings of Mr. Fairborn and his wife. I think the world of Mike Widener. I'd try to be briefer than he was and hopefully a little less dramatic. Certainly there is traffic on Camelback Road. Certainly it is busy during peak hours. If it was as bad as was just indicated, there would be no reason for any business to locate here. And in fact, Earnhardt thinks this is a wonderful location for a Lexus dealership. I put up here on the board the two suggestions that came up during the meeting yesterday, and I likewise have a great deal of thanks to both Mr. Stevenson and to Economic Development Christine Mackey. This is the dealership, this proposed. That's where Pasadena would go through. Obviously, you can't build the dealership if Pasadena's there. And that's been the problem from the beginning. But what is probably just as important is this has been one of the most deplorable slums that the city has had. It's been 14 different parcels that have been there for an exceedingly long time and have been in deplorable condition. The Earnhardts, to their credit, assembled all 14 parcels to create this beautiful new project. But right in the middle is Pasadena. So if you don't remove that stub street, which by the way doesn't exist to the west or to the east, and it doesn't exist from right here all the way to 32nd Street. So this is truly a stub street that exists just here. And only the property owners here actually abut this street. Mr. Fairborn is correct that he has legal access down 8th Street, but he has been used to using, for convenience sake, this Pasadena to get to 8th place. So from our standpoint, the solution that the staff came up with yesterday was to put a box, what is called a do not stop box, right here, so that the traffic could not block this intersection. That will allow traffic coming to this point to make a safe left out or left in, because the traffic cannot stop in the box. They have been used effectively in many locations in the city where congestion exists. That, I think, addresses a considerable amount of the problem, and I agree that this should be done as soon as can reasonably be done. I don't know of any studies that need to be done for that. It's simple paint on a street and should be able to be done quickly. The other one is more difficult, we understand, is to put a signal here. It is at 8th place, which there will be traffic from the south with the Alta Camelback housing project that will come here, as well as this is a BMW dealership. This is a future Lexus dealership. So I think the warrants would be met for a signal here. We're willing to work with the city to install that signal. We are in favor of that. So we agree to the stipulation that it should be done. And the only other thing that I think I'm supposed to say on the record is that we will not close off Pasadena until we have to. But that said, you understand that when you start a construction project, there's a lot of earth moving that's going to happen, a lot of big machinery, and it's going to become very difficult to keep Pasadena open for very long. So I'm hoping that from the city standpoint, we can move forward, at least on that box, to make traffic easier to get in and out of, and on the traffic signal as quickly as possible.
Thank you very much, Mr. Earl. Mr. Widener, did he say the magic words?
There are a few people that I've met in the zoning community whose word I trust more than Stephen Earl's.
All right, those are all the cards I have for the public hearing. Is anyone else here to provide testimony on item number 94? Going once, going twice. The public hearing is now closed. Councilman DeCiccio, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to roll those two motions into one. It'll be a lot easier. The motion is going to be to approve the abandonment per the abandonment hearing officer request with the addition of one additional stipulation. The applicant shall construct a traffic signal at the intersection of 8th Place and Camelback Road as approved by the Street Transportation Department. The Street Transportation Department has reviewed this proposed location, and it is suitable for a traffic signal subject to the additional right-of-way acquisition and warrant studies. Once the studies are completed and appropriate criteria from the Federal Highway Administration are met, the developer will construct the traffic signal at the intersection. Also, in addition to this, I would like to direct the street department to paint a, what do they call it, do not stop box here with cross-hatching on Camelback Road at the intersection of Camelback and 8th Street as approved by the Street Transportation Department as soon as possible. We're going to put in 4 months in here because that was what we originally had, but City Manager and I just spoke. It's going to be done a lot faster than that. We're just wanting to give ourselves a little room just in case something comes up. Very quickly, Alan, Christine.
Is that your motion?
That is my motion.
Is there a second? There is a second, Councilman.
Alan, Christine, thank you. You guys are geniuses, as always. Amazing, off the charts, just incredible. Mr. Widener, Mr. Fairborn, and if you could also convey to your clients, the Earnhardts, thanks for continually working on this. It was a difficult issue. We were just down to literally one individual that needed to make sure that they were taken care of, and they had to be taken care of, and they were taken care of. And these stop boxes do work. I've got one near my home. They're amazing. I mean, you are shamed into not wanting to stop there. No one tells you not to do that or not, but if you do stop in one of those things, you actually think about it because people do look at you. So they work. And that's my motion, Mayor.
Okay, if we have a motion, we have a second. Any additional comments by this City Council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela. Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the motion passes unanimously. That ends our zoning items. We have about 15 more cards for citizens' request.
Happy
Just
holidays.
kidding, just kidding, no more.
One and they're gone.
Oh, wait a minute, we do have one more.
I think she's gone.
Oh, Miss Sheila Dobbs, Suzanne Dobbs, I think she is gone. So she'll have a chance to speak next time. With that, our meeting is adjourned. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa.